Welcome back to another episode of the Bradley University podcast. I am one of your hosts, Angie Cooksey. I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment Management, Marketing, and Communications.
And I am Ben Jed. I am AVP of Marketing and Communications.
If you've not heard the show before, what the Bradley University podcast is a place where we get to talk with the best people around Bradley's campus and who are doing awesome and amazing things and get to highlight just them as people and their involvement in and around Bradley and the Peoria community. We shoot in the lower level of the University Hall in Hilltop Studios, which is an awesome space for our students and our faculty and our staff to have access to today's technology, to shoot podcasts, to record podcasts, do music recordings, all sorts of things, and really anything that they can imagine. It's a great space. Today, our guest is Craig Dahlquist, who is the Senior Associate Athletic Director Emeritus and works with athletic advancement these days. You might have the longest title on campus, I think. Craig Dahlquist, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
What we do on the show is give everybody an opportunity to learn, to share a little bit about themselves and their journey to the seat that they sit in today. So can you talk a little bit about your history and how you landed in advancement and all the things in between?
So I'm going to go back 41 years ago.
We got time.
Actually, it goes back a little further than that. I actually started my graduate work here at Bradley and back in the fall of 78.
Okay.
And did not complete my MBA here, went down to Western Illinois, finished my master's degree there, and through a bunch of different job changes, once I got my master's, I ended up back at Bradley in August of 84 to become the assistant track coach. A year later, Jake Schoaf retired, and I became the head track and cross country coach. Pretty quickly, this was a time when we were changing some of our majors. We were dropping physical education as a major, so I got to pick up some classes and teach there. But as things evolved, we decided in the athletic department that it would be a good idea to add men's soccer, and they unfortunately downgraded the track and cross country program. So I had some decisions to make, and Bradley made a decision for me. They offered me an opportunity to stay in an administrative role, and so I worked in the ticket office and started doing some of the business manager at the time positions before I picked up an assistant AD title. And that really was a pretty good turning point. We had a big family, still do, and so it was an important part for Trish and I to think, okay, do I really want to be out on the road recruiting and traveling and coaching, or trying to raise what ended up being a family of 7 children? So as things evolved, I eventually picked up the compliance umbrella in the athletic department, which I always tell people today that was 11 years of purgatory. So I've got a fast track to the big seat in the sky. I've already done my time. But through a lot of evolutions, different athletic directors, I really worked hard on the financial side and money in, money out, and so forth. And of course, being a sport coordinator. And over the years, you learn a lot of things about Bradley. And so my relationships with all the different places on campus, including enrollment management, financial aid, the registrar, and of course the Swords Hall and the business office, I got very, very well connected. I feel like that's one of the things that I've been really proud of through the years, is just being able to have all the bases touched and getting to know the folks in HR and so forth. So 38 years later, we can fast forward to a few years ago, it was time to retire. And at that time, I was handling the finances and other things that, of course, the athletic director needed done. And I retired and walked away, but stayed on. We had upgraded our track and cross country program to the program it is now. And I stayed on as a volunteer coach, just mostly to keep my keys so I could keep my locker, right? But
priorities.
Right. But I was glad to be involved and help out there whenever I could. And we had last fall we had bid for the NCAA regional cross country meet, which was the 8th time in my time here that we were fortunate to host. And so I told them I would stick around and help make that happen. And about the same time last year, I got approached by Charlie Roy saying that we have a void. We need help in the basketball games. You know people, you know the constituents. Can you come out and help us maybe turn over some stones, raise some money? And so that's a fast track to where I am. But I had a wonderful winter doing some things that I didn't think I would ever do at Bradley, and that is starting to dig into some of our athletic alumni, trying to get that database sorted out. There were some folks who weren't coded in sports that they belonged in, or even coded sometimes in the wrong sport. So we got that cleaned up, and things went very, very well. And we still have a bit of a void in the development area, so they asked me to stick around this year and continue to do the things that I'm doing. And that's where I sit today, and it's just been great. The folks that I've reconnected with, that I kind of walked away from, and I would say that being the few thousand season ticket holders, that was really fun. What are you doing here? Well, I'm back working again. And I've had a lot of compliments, people saying, well, you're in the right place, is what you need to do. And Trish and I didn't really have a hard decision to make in terms of that. It was starting to sit around the house, and I didn't want to be that guy that was just watching Netflix reruns all day long. And all the projects I could do in the house, I'd pretty much done. The ones that I couldn't do, I'm either too old to do now, or it's better just to hire somebody else to do it in the right way. So, but we're a very connected Bradley family. A lot of people know my son Danny, who was here and played soccer, and then my daughter Carrie Donlin now is over in the physical therapy department, and she helps run the pro bono clinic, and she's been a professor now, or I guess I should say, she's a professor. Just finished her PhD and is now in the tenure track. Really proud of that. I should have started with Trish.
I was going to say, we have to go backwards.
Yeah, so Trish has been in the English department forever. She came here when we got married, finished her degree, got her master's degree, and has just marched her way through in the English department, and is actually the chair right now. Cool. With all the changes that have happened, she had the opportunity to step into that role. She's done study abroad, as I just spoke with Joby Skaggs on her way at the door here about all the work that they're doing there. And Tricia's got a few more years yet to work. I'll go backwards. Our youngest is actually a sophomore at Illinois Wesleyan, playing soccer over there, and was fortunate to have the tuition exchange, and probably playing soccer there because we don't have varsity soccer here at Bradley, and maybe someday that'll happen, maybe not. We don't know. But
you and me have the same wishes for women's varsity soccer.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And then my next youngest, Michael, graduated 2 years ago from Bradley, and he did have an exchange opportunity, but because of COVID, stuck around town.
Yeah.
And then Marty was a student who went away on exchange but came back to Bradley. And then Molly graduated, and she's teaching high school down in St. Louis, and that's cool. Not too bad. And then Amanda. Probably the only one that doesn't have any touch base with Bradley at all. She went to St. Louis U in nursing school, and had a really good experience there. But she is back in town and getting married to a local person, so we're not going to lose her to another town. Excuse me. So I don't know what you have in your itinerary, but I came in here with a small agenda, and I just want to tell people, I think, Angie, you and I talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago, about some of the really cool things that I've been doing. And one of them, because I have a passion for track, but the other sports also, I've been just going through the database and looking people up and trying to find out who they are and where they are. So I got curious about...
Are you going to be calling people out? Like, we need to get in touch with Kevin Smith right now.
Well, I don't want to make them uncomfortable, but this particular gentleman is a 1954 grad. He's an All-American pole vaulter, so that's why I found his name. And I looked, I thought, this guy's a retired Air Force colonel. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I got to email him. So I went to an old Onaga, or what were they called back then, the Polyscope, and I found a picture of him pole vaulting, All-American pole vaulter, shot the picture to him, and he responded right away. And this was back late winter, early spring. And we ended up on the phone together. And boy, did he have some stories to tell me. They were fantastic. So think about this, 1954 graduate. Robert Lawrence, the astronaut, which we missed the timing on this gentleman because I would have loved, I can say his name, Paul Erickson. Mm-hmm. Paul, if we just started sooner, if I may have been able to get him somewhat involved in the statue, although Paul's 93 years old now, so he's not traveling a lot. But he gave me this story. Well, Bobby Lawrence was on the track team when I was a senior, and he was a freshman. And then he explained that, I didn't follow him much, but he wasn't a real good track athlete. I didn't think he'd pursue it. And of course, we all know the story. He went on and did great things academically, and then on to his astronaut world. Paul also when he left Bradley, went to aviation school. And he told me he went to aviation school with General Wayne Downing, our airport name, his brother.
Wow.
And so I don't know the whole story yet. I'm just getting into it. And so we went on and I said, so all these years, have you been back to Bradley? Nope, only once. He's from Moline. He came here because a former Bradley track athlete was his high school coach and said, you have to go to Bradley. So he came down here and wasn't, right at the end of the career, so didn't get drafted, but he was, he knew he was going to go into the military and went through the ROTC program. So for some of the old timers, remember Nebraska football, when he retired, he ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska. And he was the commercial pilot for Coach Osborne at Nebraska on his recruiting trips.
That's amazing.
So now think about all this plus a career in the Air Force. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get down to Dallas because we need to do this. We need to get a camera in front of him. I sent him a polo for his birthday, although I sent a black one. He said, that's not our school colors. So I'm going to have
I like him already.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
going to have to fix that. But that's just a story of many, many people. One more quick one. 1971 grad. So I haven't just been looking at intercollegiate athletics. I've been looking at the clubs. So hockey is big for us. So I looked at club hockey and I looked at club soccer. And I saw a picture and I saw a name and I looked him up. And this gentleman, he's very private. He just retired as a psychology professor at Washington University in St. Louis. He had taught at Eastern Illinois before that. Lives down in St. Louis now, so hopefully I'll see him when we do the President Shadid reception down there later on in October.
A couple weeks.
But he was one of Claire Etaw's first students.
I saw her walking around campus today.
He was a transfer from Knox, and she remembers him. So now I'm talking to Claire, I'm talking to David, but I have not put them together on the phone, on the Zoom or anything, but I'm going to make that happen. And he writes mystery murder novels, and it just, things like that. Now, where this takes us, I don't know, but our current faculty in the psychology department are fascinated with the fact that maybe they can have a dialogue with this gentleman. Maybe he's got some connections and some ties that they can help them with perhaps some of their research, help some of our students move on in life. But that's just two stories of the kinds of things I've been doing in the last 9 months now. Because really this
I'm
started...
really glad that you weren't good at being retired, Craig.
Yeah, I honestly, that's why I say with Trish, I honestly thought, well, okay, this is going to be different going in every day and getting it at 8, getting in at 9, and then staying late. Of course, I worked volleyball this weekend in our little booster club room, making sure that those people got their free popcorn and they were happy and it was good. And of course, I don't mind watching volleyball. And
Sure.
So, I'll be helping with the cross country meet because that's my passion down the road. And basketball games are coming up, but that's my story. I've got more details in my 38 years that I could spill, but I had 4 athletic directors. Every one of them was a different type of person, but got on well with them and how many different presidents we have. But I feel like Bradley's a great place to be.
So 38 years, long family ties. What, in your opinion, makes Bradley unique?
In general or for me?
Yes. No, either one. Yeah.
What I like about Bradley, so I went to a small college. I went to Monmouth, much smaller than here.
Sure.
It's the next step where there's more people, more adventures to get to know. There's a challenge. I'm not perfect with faces and names, but when you're in a small school and you graduate and you say, I don't know who that person is, I don't know who that person is, but I know the rest of them, that's one thing. But when you come to a Bradley, I think being connected, and this is a very, very, very friendly campus. And you walk around, if you see a student with their head down on the way to Bradley Hall and you say hi to them, 99% of them will lift their head and say hi and smile. And that's the cool place about this. It's a 65-acre campus. Then you add the St. James apartments to make it a little bit bigger, but it's so easy to get from here to there. I left 6 minutes ago from the office to walk over here to the studio, and we're basically the other side of campus here. And it's just a really cool place. And I think being able for me now personally to go from from office to office and know the Dave Bears and be able to sit in his office when he was police chief and sit with Nina Peplow and sit with, back in the day, Michelle Ritchie and Pratima in the controller's office, and be able to knock on Gary Anna's door and stick your head in and have people say, hi, and not say, who are you? What are you doing here? This is not that kind of place. And we have a president now they've all been that way. They have a president now who's, accessible. He's busy, but, he's done a good job of getting to know who you are. And obviously he's a Bradley guy too, so it really helps a lot. But the old Bradley family is something that's people criticize. It's all falling apart. I said, maybe it's not what it was, but you need to engage. If you're on campus, engage yourself from people like me who've been here a long time, because I think then you'll feel a little bit different than just trying to hang out with your colleagues that have only been here a couple, 3 years. I mean, it's just simple fact that you guys are doing this podcast, that you get to meet people. This is cool. And I'm getting to sit with you. First time we spent more than a handshake.
Absolutely.
And I called you and you had time for me, and we spent half an hour a couple weeks ago, and it was really neat. So that, again, this is the closest of Bradley. I think that's the biggest reason why Trish and I just live across the street in the Uplands. We moved there thinking, all right, a couple, 3 years here and we'll move on. And we found out that walking to work and walking home for lunch and forgetting your keys and going back and your phone, and it's been great. And I'm neighbors with the Montgomerys and the Kelsos, and down the street, Jim Irwin, God bless him, who passed a number of years ago, is across the street, and Tony Herman, and I'm going to miss people. Jason Zaborowski's on my street.
I want to come live on their street.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like fun.
It's a really cool place. And as I'm reading student newspapers from back in the day and finding out about how many faculty lived so close, because not a lot of people had cars in the teens and the 20s. And of course, I'm guessing they were working on Bradley salaries, so there probably weren't a lot of cars for some. But this is a really close neighborhood, the West Bluff, and I'm excited to see some of the subtle changes that we're going to be making to make Bradley's presence even more. And we're not dominant in the neighborhood, but the Uplands and the West Bluff does not exist without Bradley. And I think a little bit the same. Bradley doesn't exist without a lot of what's going on around here too. Good things.
Ben's heard me say this before. One of my biggest dreams about Bradley and Peoria is that when people come into this town, they know that this is our hometown and that Bradley is all over, and there's no mistaking that this is where we've grown up and we've built a pretty amazing thing. So I love that part of that idea of community is so important to Bradley's future, to Peoria's future, to the West Bluff and the Uplands, and it's also interconnected in a way that is kind of really magical.
I agree. And it's hard to put in words, as you can tell. I mean, I might be rambling a little bit, but I could throw out 25 adjectives to describe this place, and I wouldn't be wrong on any of them. It just fits. It fits so well.
So listening to what you've been talking about today, I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit, like people are like, oh, it's not the Bradley that I remember. It's not how... And I think in a lot of ways that's right. That should be. Times change, people change, technology changes, the world changes. Like, it would be maybe weird if Bradley was the exact same place it was in 1985. Like, that's probably an odd thing.
And it's good.
Right? It's good that we've moved on and we make those changes. What would you say you've had the last 9 months to start to reconnect with some of our alumni and some of those people that have that historical tie to Bradley? What would you say to our alumni and how would you encourage them maybe to reconnect in a way if they haven't?
So what I found is so I can say older, because I'm a 78 grad, and these folks, a lot of them I've been talking to are early 70s, late 60s, on down 1961 grad's going to drive over in October to help us with the cross-country meet.
Wow.
Nobody's been talking to us. Nobody's been connecting. Tell me some stories. We read it, we see it, but my generation was transitional with cell phones and social media and so on, and I'm still working hard on it. That group is perhaps still a little bit more, I don't want to say resistant, but just it's not in their wheelhouse every day to grab their phone right away and take a look and see what kinds of messages or what things are happening. Did you sign up for the Bradley Connect email? Nah, well, do it. And you don't have to look at it, but once in a while it's going to pop up.
Yeah.
Something's going to grab your, just like the newspaper, something's going to grab your interest. And you're not going to look at the front page. You're going to flip to page 3, flip to page 5 and see what it says. And sometimes you might go 4 months and not bother. But to me, talking to some of these folks and then trying to connect them with their classmates is I think is really important. We don't want to look backwards. We need history to move forward. We don't want to look backwards a lot. We have to look forward to where we're going to be, because if we dwell too much in the past, then we just spin our wheels. But there's been tons of changes at Bradley since I've been here, 41 years or so. There's been tons of changes in the 41 years before that.
Right.
And there's going to be more changes, and sometimes changes is not very uncomfortable, and it unfortunately hurts a few people. But for the most part, when you look at the institution as a whole, it moves on. So what do I tell those people? I just tell them to be positive, because this is a huge institution with a very healthy endowment. Wrong things can happen, right? But no, this place is moving on. It's moving forward, and it's going to be a different look. And like I said back when I first started talking here, when I got here, they were dropping physical education. I forget the other 2 academic programs. It created a lot of strife. Some professors moved on. Some moved into other departments, but they moved on. They just moved along, and then things changed. And like I said, nobody really remembers that we once had a physical education major, but it's just not here anymore.
People
World
aren't
change.
complaining
Yeah.
that we're not watchmakers anymore. You know?
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
They don't have, and this is what we
Exactly.
have going. I've got a Garmin on my arm here.
Do you want to grab?
No, you go.
Oh, okay. This is how this goes
Yeah.
usually. We always end with sort of the same question for everybody, and it puts people on the spot a little bit. One of the things that's so exceptional about this place and having the show is getting to hear people's experiences at Bradley and the stories that they've had at Bradley. And often, because we find that many of our people here are wildly humble, they don't tell us a lot about themselves. And so the question that we ask at the end of every show is, Craig Dahlquist, what are you unapologetically exceptional at? And that's the response we get.
Yeah. Oh boy. So I would say I try to get myself involved in too much, and realizing that sometimes when your involvement may not be your specific responsibilities, and you could create somebody else a little bit more work. And like I talked, you and I were talking about some club sports concepts the other day, and I've spoken with some other VPs, and like, well, if this happens, how important is it, and how much work is that going to create? And so I think that sometimes you need to stay in your lane, because you got a job to do and get those things done. But I just feel like sometimes something needs to be said over here, and you've got to be tactful about it, or you have to whisper to somebody else to say, hey, I saw this. And it's not like you're ratting anybody else. It's just certain things need to be done. You walk through campus. Here's a good example. I walk on the east side of the arena. I say the new arena. It's in its 16th year now.
That's wild. Like, I remember when it got built.
So I walked on the east side, and I'll pick up 5 to 6 scraps of paper every single day that blew or were dropped or whatever. And so I actually saw the grounds guy out here running the hoses right outside where we're at by the new cafeteria. And I just mentioned to him that, and he said, keep doing it, because we just can't get it done all the time. And that's where families pass when they're on campus visits. And so it's just little things like that. So I said it to him thinking maybe his staff was not doing their job, not passing by, because we used to always see people with the, picking up with buckets and things. But I think that's all of our responsibility.
Yeah.
So this is a small little example of other things that that you do. And
It's the ripple effect, though, right? Like, you picking that up means that somebody else who walked past it later had a better experience in that moment, because it wasn't
Or they saw me do it, and maybe they'll do it. But
And
that's
they'll
just
do
me,
it.
maybe a little bit of my self-righteousness too. But no, I think sometimes I will step out of my silo, out of my lane a little bit. But again, we at Bradley all have that extra line in our responsibilities that says
Other duties as assigned.
Yep.
Yeah, so you just get used to doing that, and you cut it off now before it gets assigned to you, and just take care of it, right?
Thank you so much, Craig, for joining us today. It was great to learn more about you and hear some of these just amazing stories that need to be told.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of the Bradley University podcast. If you haven't noticed, we have a lot of fun down here in Hilltop Studios, and we would love to have you on the show so we can learn about your stories, your experiences, and the ripple effects that you have here on Bradley's campus. So see everybody later.
Bye.
Bye.